Good afternoon, folks. Sound check. If you can hear me, give a thumbs up, please. That's a hand, Lisa. But very functional. Cool, cool. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carl Colonius. I'm the program manager at the Outdoor Recreation Division. Another team member on this call is Michelle Simon, our marketing coordinator. Wanted to welcome everybody to a Trail Plus info session. We are in the midst, we're in the midst of a application period, so it's a good time to learn a little bit more about the Trail Plus grant program and pose some questions. Just a little housekeeping. Please keep your microphones off so we can keep the side noise down. We will have additional information that's dropped into the chat, so keep an eye on that. And if you do have questions during the session, go ahead and drop those into the Q&A, and we'll take the last 15 minutes or so and run through those, answering your questions. And if you don't mind, please keep your questions general, related to the application process or the grant as an oversight. If you do have questions specific to your grant application, you can schedule some one-on-one with me. We will provide a link at the end of the presentation. That sound good for folks? All right, we're going to jump right into it. So, Outdoor Recreation Division, made up of 4 folks. Our director, Karina Armijo, also known as El Jefe. Michelle Simon on this call is our marketing coordinator. And then a recent addition to our team is Evan Pilling. He's our grants coordinator, running the Outdoor Equity Fund program. So talking a little bit about the Outdoor Recreation Division, we were established by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham in 2019. So in the last 6 years, we've been focused on the mission of increasing equitable access to the outdoors for all New Mexicans, ensuring healthy outcomes, environmental stewardship, and economic prosperity. You can see the core values that we operate under. And our work to kind of reframe it is the establishment of outdoor recreation ecosystems. We think about the Outdoor Equity Fund as programming, getting people involved in the outdoors. The Trail Plus is about the projects or infrastructure. You can't have programming without the appropriate infrastructure, so the Trail Plus is about building out our outdoor recreation assets so that they're in scale with our need or in front of our need. We also do some outdoor recreation business support through the Activator program. It's ostensibly an outdoor recreation business boot camp. We also support an adventure pitch fest later on this year. That's a competition for outdoor recreation startup funds. So we are focused on the entirety of the state of New Mexico. We're one of 24 states that have created some version of an Office of Outdoor Recreation. The idea being that outdoor recreation does have a significant positive impact on communities, on the economies, on community health, focusing on the economics because New Mexico chose to put the Outdoor Recreation Division within the Economic Development Department. And we know that New Mexico's outdoor economy contributed 2.4% to the gross domestic product, which is $3.2 billion, nothing to sneeze at, and provides employment for almost 30,000 New Mexicans. That's 3.2% of the employment opportunities in the state, with a payroll of over $1.5 billion. So pretty significant impacts economically as far as outdoor recreation programming. But it's not just about economics. We also really look at the health benefits of our programming. We know that physical health is improved, cardiovascular, outdoor recreation reduces chronic diseases, helps maintain healthy weight. It also has significant mental health impacts. Spending time outside, facilitated by trails, reduces stress, it improves your mood, decreases symptoms of depression and anxiety, and all of that. Name another economic development strategy that has that benefit as well. And kind of then think about community development. Outdoor recreation oftentimes aligns with master development plans, community development plans, open space preservation. We do see outdoor recreation spaces as a conservation strategy. And, the idea of community development, when folks are evaluating a community, someplace they want to move to, they look at a couple of things right away. They look at the education system and they look at access to the outdoors. So we know that influences people's decisions as to what makes an attractive community. We also measure the environmental benefits of our programming. Air and water quality. We can look at the idea of getting people out of their vehicles because walking and biking is more accessible and safer. And thinking about the idea that a sustainable trail that provides access to public lands diminishes social or braided trails, unofficial routes that might not be professionally designed, might be, for instance, too close to a watershed or going through a fragile ecosystem or too steep on a slope that creates erosion and sedimentation in the watershed. So a well-designed, sustainable trail is a conservation strategy. And then, kind of getting a little deeper into the economic benefits, you can think about the Outdoor Recreation Trail Plus grant as fitting into your vision. If you are not interested in seeing ecotourism or additional visitors to your community, then don't design the system that would draw folks to it, thinking about safe routes to schools or a bike lane that allows folks to ride a bike safely from where they live and work into the library or a shopping center. That's not something that folks are going to travel for versus a well-designed, comprehensive equestrian system with beautiful stables right next to a bed and breakfast. That is going to bring folks to your community. So you can think about the economic benefits based upon what type of project you're designing. And the idea that you do have the opportunity to put a small bump in your gross receipts tax by hosting events. Maybe it's a high school cross-country meet or a mountain bike race or a fun run. That's going to bring people to your community, kind of in that old traditional heads in beds model. That will significantly impact your gross receipts tax in your community. So outdoor recreation is an economic driver. So getting a little bit further into the Trail Plus grant, since 2020, we've invested a little more than $30 million into 226 projects statewide. We're in almost every county. We're working with more than a dozen pueblos, tribes, and tribal nations. And we've created more than 2,200 jobs through this programming. That is a pretty significant impact, and we're continuing to put resources out into the community. So that's what we've funded to date. This next year, we are targeting a distribution of approximately 7.2 million. The applications are accepted in 2 rounds. We have an application open right now. That closes on September 30th. The grant portal will open back up again in November, closing at the end of January. And we do use the submittable grant portal That is a pretty easy way for us to focus all of our reporting and communication for the grant programs. The Trail Plus grant has 3 tiers. Tier 1 from 25 to 99,999, so up to $100,000, is really what we would call a local project, a single entity that has a finite scope of work, something that you can get done or make significant progress on. And talking a little bit about who can apply, that would be tribes, pueblos, tribal nations, municipalities, counties, nonprofits, public preschools, schools and districts, public colleges and universities, soil and water conservation districts, acequia and land grant associations, quasi-government entities like council of governments or municipal planning organizations are also eligible applicants. It's actually a lot easier to talk about who's not eligible. That would be state agencies and federal land management agencies and for-profit entities. The Tier 2 grants run from $100,000 to $500,000. This is the same general construct as the Tier 1 grants. Nonprofits are also newly eligible to apply for Tier 2 grants if they've got the capacity and a significant budget. So if you're a smaller nonprofit, please don't ask for one of our larger grants that's outside of proportion. Tier 2 and Tier 3, what we look for is collaborations, multi-partner projects, lots of different players that have a significant role, exceeding, kind of just getting a significant number of letters of support for your project. We really want to see collaborations. That would be explained in your narrative, reinforced in your budget, and solidified by a letter of commitment from one of your partners. And this is the role they're going to play. The Tier 3, these are our $500,000 to $1 million grants. We might have 1 or 2 of these per fiscal year. Nonprofits are not eligible for these grants. And this is really kind of the platinum level grant program where we're looking for something with significant name recognition, something that's maybe been percolating for a good amount of time, something like the rail trail or a significant project in partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers and the city of Carlsbad. We'll show a couple of examples later. All 3 tiers have a match requirement. That is a 2-to-1 match for rural and tribal communities and a 1-to-1 match for urban areas. And that 2-to-1, that's 2 state dollars for 1 matched dollar. We have a very inclusive match policy. Federal grants, state grants, private foundation dollars, in-kind supplies, materials, sweat equity, lots of ways to generate the match. So please do not be intimidated by that. We try to make it as accessible to folks as possible. Looking a little bit at the development of a project, we ask folks to start from a vision. Who's your project for? What type of modality is it? Equestrian or motorized? A mountain bike trail? Is it a community garden? Is it a community shelter? Is it an outdoor classroom? Take that vision and kind of put it out to the community. We do encourage folks to run through a feasibility study. We bump into NIMBY, the kind of not in my backyard when projects start to move forward. And we encourage communities to do as thorough a planning process as possible in order to defray some of that delay and pushback when your project hits the ground. And don't assume your vision is going to be shared by 100% of your community, but that outreach and inclusion can do a good amount in moving you towards getting a plan that will be widely accepted by your community. So moving from vision and feasibility study into a master plan, then you're getting into design development, design and planning. Um, we have a good number of folks that we can connect you with as far as professional planning. The idea that trail design is not as simple as you might think, and generating a partnership or a relationship with a professional, the trail design firm or a landscape architecture firm, is something that we would really encourage you to do. As you're moving from design into preparation for contracting, a few steps that we ask you to think about: getting some ground truthing, not just looking at maps and thinking about the corridor that way, but spend some time on the ground. Do that with a group. Find your waypoints, parts of your trail that you would want to make sure your trail goes close to, or make sure that you are staying away from sensitive areas. Maybe there's a petroglyph or a wetlands that you want to provide a little elbow room to. Ground truthing will help generate that data set. Also, prepare yourself for the NEPA process. If your project is in partnership with a federal land management agency, the National Environmental Policy Act will need to be followed, generating either an environmental assessment or an environmental impact statement. We can pay for those processes through third-party contracting. So wanted to, kind of just encourage folks to emotionally prepare yourselves for engaging in the NEPA process as you're thinking about trail design. And then finally, before you're contracting, you would want to move into a tight pin flagging, really getting down to this is where this trail is going to go. We're eliminating as much guesswork as we can. That will help secure your contractors to lock into your vision. When you do get down to construction, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Private contractors, youth conservation corps, other nonprofits, internalizing it if you are a kind of significant entity that has the staff capacity. Although again, encouraging folks to engage with folks that are professional trail builders. It's not as simple as it seems, especially when you get into kind of some of sustainable trail design methodology. We can also introduce you to the construct of traditional hand-built trails or machine-led trails with a hand-built finish or straight-up machine-built, depending on what you're looking at. There's a bunch of different ways to go into your implementation and construction. The stewardship stage is oftentimes overlooked. We want to make sure you've got a maintenance strategy for your project. We ask this in the proposal, and we encourage applicants to think about either budgeting for the staff to do the maintenance or budgeting to contract for the maintenance of your infrastructure. Feel free to tap community volunteers, but your application should have a letter of commitment uploaded into the submittable portal to show that community volunteer group knows that they're being volunteered. That's a pro tip. On our website, which is nmoutside.com, there's a ton of information. Our grant tab has both the Outdoor Equity Fund as well as the Trail Plus grants, some other funding opportunities as well. And you would, for this particular application, open up the Trail Plus tab, and you can see the application portal is there, left of your screen, as well as the grant guide. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the contents of the grant guide because there's a lot of information there, and many of your questions might already be answered. Also on our website, screen right, you can see the grant recipient map. We encourage you to look at who we funded to date. Those pins are hot, so you can open up and get a profile, the amount and the scope of work for that particular grant. And you can see both the breakdown of our Outdoor Equity and the Trail Plus grants in the graph. So a lot of information on the website. Please take advantage of that. The grant guide that I mentioned is updated annually. We try to keep it current so that you don't have outdated information. You can see that we're advertising our grant periods, and kind of there is a ton of information on eligible and ineligible expenses. And let me just touch on some of the things that the Trail Plus grant will not fund. Water parks. We don't play with water parks. Team facilities like tennis, pickleball courts, baseball fields, soccer fields, playground equipment, and kind of the rationale for that. If we funded tennis courts, soccer fields, playground equipment, that's probably all we would do. Those are pretty expensive installations, and then we wouldn't get to the trail part of our work. So yeah, you can still fund that type of facility through capital outlay, put it on your infrastructure capital improvement plan. But the Trail Plus grant doesn't get into playground structures or traditional sports facilities. Also in the grant guide, got a frequently asked questions section. Um, just to highlight one of the pieces that's in here, what makes a strong application? It should have a recreational value. It should create equitable access. It should be environmentally and culturally appropriate. It should have an economic development impact. It should have demonstrable community support. And we would appreciate collaborations. And if you think back to the mission slide of this presentation, what makes a strong application is alignment with our values. And again, this is in the grant guide, so you can refer back to this very easily. And speaking of collaboration, in the grant application process, there is a function to allow for application sharing. So you can invite collaborators into your application portal and avoid the whole sending documents back and forth through email or setting up a Google folder, etc. Just a way to bring additional voices into your proposal. Some additional application tips are also listed in the grant guide. Our website's full of information, full of data. Do some reading, do some research, identify what we have funded, what are successful applications. Also, save your responses in a Word doc. That allows you to do character or word count. There are some limitations on some of the fields, and then you can copy and paste into the submittable portal. Pay attention to our request for the budget formatting, please. We provide a template that you can download, complete, and then upload again as a PDF. We like to see the grant request and the match documentation on a single spreadsheet, and it makes it very easy for our evaluators if the presentation is consistent. Also, don't miss our request to submit bids for subcontracts over $20,000. If you are going to subcontract for more than 20 grand, we would love to see some written validation of the amount that you are estimating. This is both to help make you a more informed grant. It also gives you a couple of conversations and might save you some time should you be awarded the grant. You've already got that conversation going. We also spend a good amount of time correcting W-9, so we're putting some renewed energy into using the state W-9 form. You can download this in the application. Please complete it completely and follow our instructions. It does slow down the grant award process significantly if we need to go back and get some W-9 corrections after the fact. And last, please don't miss the step of checking the box, yes, I want to receive email notifications. Contrary to most apps, when they ask you if you want to receive push notifications, please check this box. We use the submittable portal to communicate with grantees, and you won't see those messages in your email box unless you check this box. So help us out, help us, help you. Reporting requirements for the Trail Plus grant are relatively straightforward. We look for a progress report at the halfway point, and halfway point is 12 months. So the Trail Plus grants are 24 months. We start the clock at the signature of the grant agreement. And so right around 12 months, we ask for a progress report. We will also schedule an in-person site visit before the project completion. And then at the end of the project, a final report, including financial reporting, submitted back through the submittable the platform, allows us to kind of look at your project and put it into our portfolio that way. And in your reporting, we look for some social media hints, and throughout your project, please do tag us. We're still growing awareness of this grant program, so anything you can do to help us on that front would be appreciated. Just some examples of some Tier 1 projects that we've funded over the last few seasons. On the left, the Backcountry Horsemen Gila chapter has done a tremendous amount of work opening up wilderness-based trails in the Gila National Forest. You can see the difference before and after. Beautiful work done by the Backcountry Horsemen down in the Gila. The center frame, Taos Main Street asked for a grant to upgrade the signage, wayfinding signage, parking signage in the historic district in the town of Taos. And then the picture on the right, the county of Los Alamos built an 88 trail adjacent to their athletic facility. Very popular, really cool project. Just a few examples of some Tier 1 projects. Tier 2, a little more complex, a few different partners. The National Forest Foundation partnering with the Gila National Forest, Santa Fe National Forest, and Carson National Forest, specifically targeting post-fire trail restoration, kind of a specialized trail work niche. The National Forest Foundation is also going to produce an educational guide for us, as there are some sensitivities around post-fire trail work that they are helping to collate. Center shot, you've got the town of Red River's Millette Park bathrooms. We build bathrooms. This is in partnership with the Carson National Forest. The idea, there's a good trailhead and a gateway into the Carson National Forest, and so having restrooms at the trailhead is a significant improvement and an amenity. Also provides support in Millette Park for the skate park that's located right there. And the last slide on the right, the Spirit of Hidalgo, a nonprofit over in Hidalgo County, is building in partnership with Hidalgo County and the county fairgrounds a number of stables. This will provide support for the equestrian community, helping to increase their capacity to host equestrian events, local rodeos. It also will be advertised as a kind of an amenity for travelers on I-10. Folks that are kind of trailering their horses, you can offload and use the stables in the county fairgrounds and spend an overnight in Lordsburg. So pretty cool project going on down in the Boot Heel part of the state. A few of our larger Tier 3 projects. The city of Farmington recently completed an Animas River project. It had 3 distinct objectives: improving agricultural diversion efficiency. Previously, the Animas River had a rock and gravel dam pushed into it in order to create the diversion into the agricultural system. Pretty inefficient, not great for water quality or fish habitat. And that kind of drove the creativity around this project. The other objective is ecosystem restoration. On the far side of the project, you can see a little whitewater up against the stacked rock wall. That's a fish ladder that allows fish to move through that section of river without having their ecosystem bisected by a dam. And then in the forefront, obviously, a surf wave. So 3 kind of commingled objectives in a single project. And as far as we know, This is the first mechanized wave developed for recreation in the state of New Mexico. You can't throw a stick in Colorado without hitting somebody with a surfboard, but this is the first mechanized surf wave in New Mexico, as far as we know. The slide in the middle, Picary's Pueblo, just a few weeks ago had a ribbon cutting opening up the All Wheels Park. Our support through a $500,000 grant was the development of 3 mountain bike jump lines. So there's an intro line, a little more aggressive line, and then a full-on pro line. Picary's Pueblo committed to helping their community, their young people, get into the healthy adrenaline sports. Think about X Games or Red Bull Rampage. This is a real nod towards that level of challenge. A pretty cool facility. The other parts of the All Wheels Park include a swimming pool with a climbing wall, an Olympic grade trampoline court. They've got a full basketball court. There is a skate park and a pump track, and then the jump line, as well as some batting cages. So it really is a true destination, free to tribal members, and $10 donation from non-tribal members to go there. If you have a chance and you're close to Penasco, put it on your radar. Pretty amazing facility, just outside of Penasco. The last project, I mentioned this at the intro, partnering with the city of Carlsbad and the Army Corps of Engineers. This is on the Pecos River. And if you see the brown line here, that is a floating dock that will be installed after there is some river restoration, invasive species eradication, doing some water quality improvements. And then as a recreational amenity, this floating dock is a great place to launch your stand-up paddle boards or your kayaks. And note that it goes underneath the highway, so you can now access the lower part of the Dancel Dam area without crossing traffic. So pretty significant community safety factor through a floating boardwalk, which is pretty cool. We also do a lot of support with our projects around trail signage systems. For folks who aren't familiar with trail system development, signage is often an afterthought. And there's a ton of detail to make a really well-designed trail signage system. You've got 3 different families of signs here. The trailhead sign on the left has a detailed map with a full system description. It identifies allowable users, the distance of the routes, the difficulty of the routes. It has information around leave no trace. It has a reminder about trail etiquette, reminding folks to slow and say hello. It identifies the agency partners and the trail stewards. And note the modular setup of that sign. If there's any component that needs upgrading, you're not removing the entire sign. You can pull off a component, get that updated, and bolt it back onto a flat metal screen. A pretty elegant solution to a clean trailhead sign presentation. The wayfinding signs in the middle. Getting lost on trails is no fun for anybody. So we recommend and support taking a simplified trail map, putting it at your intersections, and then numbering your intersections. You can use the same trail map at every intersection, just changing the number so folks know where they are and have an orientation to the larger system, know which way their vehicle is or where they started. It also is a significant benefit to search and rescue. If you're hurt while on an adventure, it's nice to be able to tell someone exactly where I just passed intersection number 5, going towards intersection 6. Please come and get me. That is a great way for search and rescue to be able to respond quickly and efficiently. And the last sign on the right, interpretive signage. How do you educate or create a narrative on your trail systems, generating a positive user experience? It really is a way for you to think about land acknowledgement. The cultural and historical depth of New Mexico can be portrayed. It's a great opportunity to give your trail users a much richer experience. And we are producing a trail guide that will have a lot of this information. Look for it hopefully before too long. We're just finalizing its contents, and it should be ready for distribution before too much longer. And just in passing, I want to mention another project that we're involved in. The Rio Grande Trail, a long distance trail starting in El Paso and running to Colorado along the corridor of the Rio Grande. In 2015, the state legislature established the Rio Grande Trail Commission, and they have appropriated some resources for the Outdoor Recreation Division to work with Planned Collaborative to refine the trail alignment. So from a master plan that was completed in 2018, we are working with Planned Collaborative to look at very specifically where the trail is going to fall, and from that master plan, working with communities to designate that segment of trail as part of the Rio Grande Trail. So it's one of our ongoing projects. If you are in a community that has access to the Rio Grande, we would encourage you to incorporate your project into connectivity to the Rio Grande Trail, becoming something of a gateway community, which has benefits both to the Rio Grande Trail as well as to your community, because folks are going to come off of that trail and maybe they're going to refuel, maybe they're going to spend a night in a hotel or a bed and breakfast. You might get a little gross receipts tax bump because of your co-location to that long distance trail. And just a list of other trail and outdoor recreation funding sources in the state. Obviously, you've got the Outdoor Equity Fund, our programming counterpart to the Trail Plus. You've also got grants and opportunities on New Mexico Main Street's website. There are opportunities for funding through the tourism department and their Destination Forward grant program. The Department of Transportation has the Rec Trail program, the Transportation Alternative program, and air quality. So think about that as bike lane development. Department of Finance Administration has some new energy around outdoor recreation. They are also going to be coordinating and managing the capital outlay program. They can provide technical support, something along the lines of, you got this project, but you don't know all of the different funding structures or how to get your project fully funded. DFA can provide some technical assistance along those lines. Federal sources that are available, you've got the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Intermittently, the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership, also available through the Land and Water Conservation Fund. That would be a significant project, up to $15 million for outdoor rec projects in larger communities, with an emphasis on equity. There's also the USDA's Forest Legacy Program. That's more around property acquisition that can be amended or added to the National Forest. Pretty phenomenal opportunities out there, and a great way to think about braiding or blending multiple funding streams to get your project fully supported. Also wanted to drop a hint. In September, the Outdoor Recreation Division is going to be attending the Outdoor Economics Conference over in Gallup. Please join us. And on September 9th, we are going to have a grantee meet and greet, putting some names to faces, doing some regional coalition development, and there's going to be prizes. It's going to be fantastic. So that kind of wraps up the presentation. We can move into answering questions. Feel free to refer back to any of the slides. And if you have a specific question about your project, feel free to tag this QR code, sign up for a one-on-one with me, and we can dive a little deeper into your specifics. So there we go. Michelle, do we have any questions?
We sure do. I will start at the bottom here. So our first question is, our rifle range, Otero County Sidney Paul Gordon Shooting Range, is in need of funding for improvements such as additional shooting bays. It looks like it's cut off. Give me just a second. Additional shooting bays, shaded leaning areas, and educational programs. Does the range qualify to apply for 26 Trails Plus grant?
Otero County has been a two-time Trail Plus grantee for the shooting range. So yes, you are going to need to wait for the next fiscal year as you were just funded. Yeah, that great question, allowing me to illuminate how frequently you can ask for Trail Plus funds. As long as you're making progress on a Trail Plus grant, and you have the organizational capacity to field another project, you can apply in consecutive fiscal years. Because the grant has a 24-month or 2-year timeline, we're not asking folks to wait until the completion of that 2-year period to request your next phase, but you need to have funding in consecutive fiscal years, not in the same fiscal year.
Awesome. All right. Next question. Would accredited New Mexico Main Street programs be eligible for the grant under Tier 1?
Absolutely, Tier 1 or Tier 2, depending on their number of partners. But yes, we one of my examples was Taos Main Street. They were the applicant on behalf of the town of Taos. Yes, Main Street programming is an eligible applicant.
And can funding be applied towards projects that are already in progress?
Absolutely. Oftentimes, we hear this a lot, that material prices have changed, fee structures have changed. We thought we had all of, kind of the funds we needed for this project, but now we're coming up short. Trail Plus is a great way to put the icing on the cake or the capstone on. So yes, if your project has been initiated, explain in your narrative where you are in the project and where Trail Plus comes in.
All right. Next, we have states are ineligible, but if the proposed project is along and includes a state route, is that permissible?
Absolutely, as long as they are not the applicant of record. So federal land management agencies, state agencies, for instance, a state park. A state park cannot apply for a Trail Plus grant, but a Friends of Sugar Eat State Park could be an eligible applicant. So find a nonprofit partner, and that programming can be provided on state park or state lands or National Forest, Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, etc.
All right, we got someone looking for the link for a downloadable sample of the budget. Do we have a link for that we can throw in the chat?
Yeah. Give me a minute on that one. You can also initiate your application. Just set up a profile in Submittable and initiate your application, and you can go down and see that. It's relatively straightforward. We've got the line items listed on the left. There's a pull-down menu. Personnel, materials, contracting, etc. We ask for a description of what specifically you're asking for. And then there's a column for what you're attributing to the grant and a column that you're attributing to your match. So pretty straightforward. But yes, before the end of the session, I will drop a sample budget into the chat.
Awesome. And we've got someone asking about an All Abilities Park Foundation that's partnering with the city of Farmington. They're working on the Boundless Journey Adventure Park, which is all-inclusive, designed to meet needs of all ages and abilities. Is this an eligible project?
It is an eligible project. Sounds like it's on public land. and that it would not be a fee or a kind of a something you would have to pay to enter, which is not disallowable. I mean, you can charge a nominal fee. I use the example that Pickery's Pueblo asks for a $10 donation for non-tribal members to play on the All Wheels Park. Perfectly permissible. We don't want it to be a barrier for participation. So if it's $65 a head to kind of come in and play on your trail, not okay. But yeah, that sounds like an eligible project.
Right, so we've got a couple questions about nonprofit eligibility. So someone is wondering what with capacity means and what budget level would you say is small?
Okay. So when we're talking about tier 2 eligibility, um, what we're looking for are organizations that have 5 times the budget that they are asking. So if you're asking for a $500,000 grant, your general operational budget for the last few years should be 2.5 million or 5 times your request. So that's just a general yardstick that we're using. We also ask you to document your capacity. If you're an all volunteer organization, it's probably unreasonable to ask for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. Unless it's an extraordinary situation and you've got a track record. So there's always some interpretation on that, but the yardstick is in the grant guide for your viewing pleasure.
And why are nonprofits not eligible for tier 3?
Really about capacity. And we just changed this year, allowing nonprofits to be eligible for tier 2. So it's not certain that down the road we will not allow nonprofits to apply for tier 3, but really just trying to align the funding with capacity and scale.
All right, and somebody else is asking about the feasibility study and public involvement process for preferred alternative selection. Can it be funded with this grant?
Absolutely. Yeah, community outreach is part of your planning process. We've funded multiple grants that are about creation of maybe it's a countywide recreational master plan or a conservation trail plan. If you are not doing community outreach and community engagement, you're going to be missing some input. You're going to be missing some information. So yes, the Trail Plus will support that type of programming.
All right, another question about nonprofits and somebody wondering if nonprofits that are fiscally sponsored are eligible for tier 2.
Possibly. Again, think about the yardstick that we put out around capacity. If you're a nonprofit that necessitates a fiscal sponsor, that immediately opens up the question of your capacity. But it's not a black and white deal. So there are opportunities for you to justify that relationship and request one of our larger grants. Again, talking about the tier 2 and tier 3, we're strongly encouraging collaborative programming. This is not an applicant with 4 letters of support, but the Bureau of Land Management working with the National Forest and a mountain bike club and the county. They're going to build a trailhead. There's access to the Forest Service, gets onto BLM, where they're going to build this new trail access point. That level of collaboration where the county is providing supplies and materials and the equipment. The BLM is providing the engineering and oversight regarding the environmental. You get my point. That sort of complex and thorough collaboration, more than just a couple of letters of support.
All right, we got a couple more in here. Can you speak more about the fiscal years? Does it run January to December? How do we determine if we're applying within the same fiscal year?
Yeah. We like to keep the calendars different from the annual calendar. We operate as a state agency with the state fiscal year, which is July 1 through June 30th. So we just entered fiscal year 26. So 26 is the year it ends in. So in June 30th, 26, we'll wrap up this current fiscal year. If you got a grant in February of 2025, you are eligible to apply right now for this because it's a different fiscal year. As long as you've got two things going, you've made significant progress on your current project and you've got the capacity organizationally to implement the next phase.
Okay, two more questions. We've got someone asking about a statewide youth environmental conservation project, and would it be eligible to apply under Tier 1? It would be youth from across the state rather than the local community.
Yeah, I
So
need to learn a little bit more about that. It's not out of the question. Just today, we had an internal division conversation about trail maintenance and how we provide more comprehensive support to our federal land management agency partners and local communities that need some help in trail maintenance. Sounds like you're talking about the same sort of strategy. A couple of pointers if you are looking at putting together something that is more programming. Make sure you do have specific targeted project objectives. Trail Plus is about moving dirt. We want to increase access to infrastructure, improve the relationship between communities and outdoor recreation. So you should have some specific projects tied to your proposal.
All right, I think this is the last one. Somebody who's asking about wanting to apply for a project to fund a bike lane along a Main Street corridor in Zuni, and they're wondering who would be more eligible to apply. Would it be the Pueblo of Zuni or Main Street?
Boy, toss up. There's no distinct advantage either way. Both Zuni Pueblo and Zuni Main Street would be eligible applicants. So who has a more significant staff capacity, who wants to hold the purse, so to speak. Yeah, no advantage one way or the other between those two entities, as long as the project has merit.
And it looks like that's all the questions in both the chat and the Q&A. So unless anyone else has a burning question.
Good time to raise a hand.
Carl, if you want to work on getting that
Oh yeah, good call.
Sample. Oh, and Laura and Diana said, if anyone in the meeting is a municipality, tribal, or partner in the Sandoval County, feel free to contact them. And they dropped an email address in the chat. Thank you, guys. I can also drop a link to sign up for the one-on-one with Carl if you need to schedule a time to go into more in-depth questions. This one-on-one is a great opportunity to do that. You're also welcome to send him an email. There's a direct link to that.
You know, Michelle, I'm having trouble getting a doc to drop into the chat. Oh, wait, there it goes. Maybe.
Sometimes it sits there. You've got to.
It's thinking.
Yeah. If that person is still in the room, maybe drop your email in the chat and we can send it to you directly. Thanks, Jennifer. Jennifer says nonprofits are welcome to reach out to their local soil and water conservation districts to partner or to use as a fiscal agent.
Love those
All
partnerships.
Right. Brian, thank you. We've got your email address. I'll copy that and we'll make sure we get that sent over to you. All right. If anybody wants to sign up for our newsletter, that's a great way to stay up to date on what's going on. And I'll drop a link in the chat here. You're also welcome to send me any events or things that are going on with your nonprofit or whatever you're working on. I'm happy to share that in our newsletter and get the word out about events going on across the state. All right, I think that's it.
Folks, thanks for your time. Really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Don't be shy about reaching out if you have additional questions. Yeah, I think it is the make an appointment with me also available on our website, Michelle?
Yes, that's on the Trails Plus page of the website. If you go to nmoutside.com, you'll find it.
And happy National Navajo Code Talkers Day.
Aw, awesome.
How about that? Very cool. All right, folks. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you all. Take care.